Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing today? Coming back at you. This is the long awaited video that I've been talking about. I was going to do for I don't know how long. Um, my homeless common myths video. I've been, if you look at some of my other videos, I had been mentioning that I was going to do this video. So this is the long awaited homeless myths video. Homeless common myths video. Um, I want to spread awareness about um, the homeless situation. Homeless situation in here in the United States is getting really bad. Um, it's reaching alarming numbers in the United States now. I've lived here in Michigan all my life in a small city here in Michigan. I don't feel comfortable with telling you what city it is. Um, but the city that I live in, I've lived here all my life. And over the past, I would say 10 years, now I've never, now, mind you, when I was younger, I would go to Chicago because my mother is from Chicago. So I've been going to Chicago off and on for many years. And I went when I was younger. And so I used to see homeless people and stuff like that in Chicago, like when I would go when I was younger and everything. And I used to see homelessness in other cities, like bigger cities, but um, never seen it in this city that I'm in now until I would say over the past 10 years, maybe over the past 10 years, 5 to 10 years. I'm starting to see some things here that I never seen here before, that I would actually see in bigger cities. Stuff that I seen in bigger cities, I'm starting to see here in my small city that I live in. That's what let me know right there that homeless, the homeless problem is getting into some large numbers here in the United States because my city and the city there's another city that's next to mine, about the same size, maybe a little smaller, but the perception that it's bigger because there's more going on in that city. But square miles wise, this city is bigger than that one. But the perception is that city is bigger. However, that in that particular city, um, there's a large homeless population. There's people sleeping in the parks in that city. So now, mind you, this city and the next city next to mine are small cities. They're small cities, and we have a serious between this city and that city. We have a serious homeless problem, and like I said, I've lived in this city all my life. Was born and raised here, and like I said, I was like I would go to Chicago and some other cities, and see homeless people. Pretty common for a large city. But like I said, up to 5 to 10 years ago, I'm starting to see some of those same issues here in this city, and that's what let me know. Like I said, that's what let me know that it's getting into epidemic numbers. When your smaller cities are having homeless problems, then it's the numbers are getting to be epidemic here in the United States. That's what lets me know that right there. And so uh, this channel, I know I've mentioned this channel in. Um, I thought I was gonna have to go on YouTube, but actually I googled it because this is his website. It's called Invisible People. I would highly encourage you guys to go. visit this YouTube channel. It's called Invisible People. It's a real eye opener. This I think this guy used to be homeless, and now his passion is he goes to he interviews. He goes. He does a lot of interviews in California because California and New York have the highest homeless populations in America, and I think he's based out of L.A. So he does a lot of interviews there, but he also goes to other cities throughout the United States. He travels throughout the United States and interviews. What he does, he interviews homeless people all over the country, mainly a lot in California because I think he's based out of California, but he goes all over the United States and he interviews homeless people in California and all over the United States. And what he wants to dispel the myths that people common myths that people have about homeless people, and he wants to put a face on homelessness. Um, and he what he does is he talks to these people and he gets their stories. And as I mentioned in other videos, everybody got a story. I have a serious problem with people passing judgment on poor people and low income people, such as myself, and poor people, people that live in poverty, and homeless people. I have a serious issue with people passing judgment on poor people. And that's a huge problem in this country. The poor people are looked down upon in this country. It's terrible. It's horrible. Um, People that are rich, middle to upper class people are highlighted or whatever, and poor people are looked down upon and judged very harshly. And like as I stated in many other videos, poor people are some of the hardest working people in this country. I've been low income all my life, and I have worked very hard over the years. Very hard. And I've done various different jobs. I've had various different jobs, and mostly all of them were low paying. And I've worked very, very hard over the years. And I know your average person living in poverty or low income slash low income I know some low income people that are very, very, very hard working people. So this perception that poor people are lazy, I'm not buying it. Maybe some of them are, but most majority of your people are very hard working people, you know. So I hate that when people say that. And I want to I'm doing this video because I want to spread awareness. Um, I love this channel because when I get it, because I know sometimes I be tripping. You know, I be tripping. I be going through. Right now, I'm dealing with some pride issues. I'm ready to make another job change because I'm dealing with some pride issues because I went to school for many years and I really didn't go to school to clean toilets and wipe booties. So dealing with some serious pride issues right now, and I'm ready to make a job change. But at the same time, however, at the same time, I count my blessings. And I thank God that I even have a job because I could be unemployed. And then I look at, my home and the fact that I'm very grateful that I have a roof over my head, that I have my house, that I have food to eat. Um, I count my blessings. When I need to put things to perspective, I read my Bible, but I also tune into this channel. And it gives me a serious reality check, you know. And when you guys you get you're kind of depressed about your situation, you're struggling or whatever, when you get in it, that's understandable. But look, you know click onto this channel. This is his website right here. It's called Invisible People. I highly encourage you guys to go visit the YouTube channel. It is such an eye-opener, and it will help you put things in perspective. When he talks to the different people and gets their stories, you look at your situation, you be like, I guess I ain't doing so bad after all. And when you really think about it, you're doing good if you have a job, regardless of what it is. It makes no difference what it is. If you have a job, first of all, you're doing great. Second of all, if you have a roof over your head that you can maintain and make payments on every month and maintain and keep a roof over your head, if you're able to do that, you're really blessed and you really got it good. If you have access to running water, a toilet that flush, work functioning toilet, a shower every day, and if you got a washer and dryer, you really got it going on. And you have access to a refrigerator and stove, and you have food in your house, regardless, make no difference. I don't care. Wait, no, make no difference. Ready to get food stamps or whatever. You have food in your house. I can go in the kitchen right now and fix me some breakfast, like I'm probably going to do after I do this video. It's a blessing to be able to do that. It's so many homeless people that can't do that. They can't. Now, I'm going to, first of all, before I go into more of this video, I'm going to read to you what he has on here. This is going to be a long video, so please bear with me. But I want to spread awareness. If you're really, really interested in this topic, you'll hang in there and hang out to the end of the video. If you're really passionate, I'm passionate about poverty and stuff like that. But if you really, really are interested in knowing more about poverty, you tune in to the end of the video. But bear with me, it's going to be a long video. Um, I want to read to you what he has on here before I go any further. Definitions of homelessness. How many people are homeless in America? By nature of homelessness, it is nearly impossible to get an accurate count. The dictionary definition of homelessness is having no home or permanent residence. However, there are a few different definitions of homelessness and ways of counting homeless people used by the federal government and people who work in homeless shelters and programs. Homeless people, no matter which definition we use, often don't want to be known as homeless. They avoid circumstances where they could be counted because they fear stigma and other repercussions. For example, many homeless parents feel social services would take away their children if people knew that they were homeless. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 553,742 people were experiencing homelessness in the U.S. on a single night in 2017. About 65% of those people were in emergency shelters and transitional housing programs. 35% were in unsheltered locations. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development defines and counts homelessness in four ways. Let me go scroll down a little bit too far. Too far. Just bear with me here. Number one, individuals and families who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This issue people exiting an institution where they lived for less than 90 days and who lived in an emergency shelter or place not meant for human habitation immediately before entering the institution. Number two, individuals and families who will intermittently lose their primary nighttime residence. Number three, unaccompanied youth and families with children and youth defined as homeless under the federal statutes who do not already qualify under this definition. Number four, individuals and families fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or other dangerous and life-threatening conditions related to violence against the individual or family member. Um, he's got some stuff on here talking about the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education reports that 1,304,803 students enrolled in public school districts and reported by state educational agencies experienced homelessness during the course of the 2015-2016 school year. The U.S. Department of Education defines and counts homeless children and youth as individuals who lack fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, including children and youth sharing housing of other persons due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, or camping grounds due to the lack of alternative adequate accommodations, living in emergency or transitional shelters, abandoned in hospitals, awaiting foster care placement. Children and youth who have a primary nighttime residence that is a public or private place not designed for ordinary use as a regular sleeping accommodation for human beings. Children and youth are living in cars, parks, public places, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, bus or train station, or similar settings. Migratory children, migratory children living in circumstances described above. Adequate count of people of homelessness in America. There are several reasons it is difficult to get a complete, precise count of the number of people homeless in America. The variant federal counts and definition of homelessness are helpful but do not include everyone. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development counts homeless people on one night each year and uses a different definition of homelessness than the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education counts only those students enrolled in public school. The department does not capture those who experience homelessness during the summer, only those who dropped out of school or babies and young children who are not enrolled in preschool programs administered by public schools. We must always remember that counts of homeless people are at best a good guess. The numbers of people experiencing homelessness are most likely much higher than reported. So that's the information that he has on his website. This is his website here. I love watching this channel because it puts a face on homelessness, and I'd like to interview because he challenges people. He said interview some homeless people in your city, and I actually would like to interview a couple of homeless people here in my city. Once I get a new phone or a blogging camera, I'm probably going to do that to find out what their story is. But a lot of the homeless people that he interviews, um, well, all of them have a story. And a lot of people look at homeless when they think about a homeless person. The first thing that comes to mind is somebody that's on drugs. Like, oh, well, they must be on drugs. They must. Uh, well, I think the first thing that comes to people's mind actually is that they're lazy. I think that probably actually comes first before drugs. People think lazy and then they think drugs. That this person is lazy, they don't want to work, they want to take the easy way out, they want to stand on the corner and beg folks for money. And they when they look at homeless people, um, that's what they see. A beggar, somebody that don't want to work, um, lazy. That's pretty much the first thing that comes to people's mind. But when you go and check out this channel, you will realize that now some of these people, mind you, have degrees. He interviewed a lady the other day. I watched. She had a college degree. I watched where he interviewed this black lady. She used to work for uh I can't remember. She had a really good job. She was a social worker or something like that. She had like a master's degree. A lot of them have master's degrees. Some of them even have doctorate degrees, believe it or not. And I just looked at a video. I didn't actually watch the video, but it came up in my recommendations. This guy had millions of dollars, and now he's on the street. He interviewed a guy that was a doctor, and I'm like, okay, well, how the heck does a doctor wind up on the street? But he has a story. He interviewed a guy that was a lawyer. And you think a lawyer? Well, lawyers make good money. How the heck they wind up? Well, first of all, lawyers got a lot of student loan debt. But he has a story. So your average homeless person is not what you think they are. No, uneducated, lazy. They don't want to work. They've never worked a hard day in their life or whatever. They just want to beg from people. That is not. Everybody has a story. I've stretched this in other videos that I've done. Everybody has a story. Where you going? All right. Excuse me. And that's why I thought it was very important for me to do this video, because I wanted to dispel some of the myths that people have about homelessness. Now, you, like I said, click on this channel, because I'm telling you, I think everybody in America needs to look at this YouTube channel. Everybody in America needs to watch this YouTube channel, because it's an eye opener. And you think you're doing bad, watch some of these people, these people he interviews. And sometimes, like I say, I get down in the dumps sometime, and dealing with some pride issues right now concerning my job. And um, as you know, I've done other videos, so I try to keep it 100 with you guys. And I've done videos where I kind of vent it a little bit, not complaining, but venting, and letting you know how I feel about things and everything. And but then I watch one of these videos, and like I said, I read my Bible and I pray, and then I look at this channel, and it helps me to put things in perspective, and it helps me to realize I ain't got it so bad after all. Because if you have a roof over your head, if you have a job, any job, it doesn't matter what it is, if you have a roof over your head that you're able to maintain on a month to month basis, whether you own or you rent, you have running water, if you have food in your refrigerator stove, and you got food in your house, don't make no difference whether you're getting food stamps or whatever. If you got heat, I know I went 2 years one time with no furnace. Well, I had a furnace, but it wasn't working, and I couldn't afford to get it fixed. Michigan winters up here are rough. You don't want to go through a Michigan winter without a working furnace. Trust and believe. It's no fun. So if you got heat in your house, you got electricity, you got now you got a little cable. Well, I don't have cable. It's too expensive. I can't afford $300. But if you got some Wi-Fi oh my God, you got it going on. You got it going on. If you have clothes to wear, don't make no difference how they look, as long as they're clean. As long as they're clean. When I first started working, because I didn't have my scrubs, didn't have, I just had like a scrub top, and I had to build up my scrubs. Still got to build them up a little bit. I wore the same top for several weeks, you know, until I was able to, they give you one free scrub top, until I was able to buy some. But I say I don't care. I say I know if I don't care if people talking about me, because it's clean. I wore the same scrub top for several weeks. Didn't make no difference. I made sure it was clean. So doesn't matter if you wear the same clothes all the time. Sometimes I wear the same dresses when I go to a hall or whatever, or skirts or whatever. Doesn't matter as long as it's clean. Doesn't matter what you're wearing as long as it's clean. As long as you're neat and you're clean, that's all that matters. It matters the same clothes or whatever, as long as you're neat and clean. So if you have clothes, it doesn't matter what kind of clothes they are. As long as the clothes are neat, presentable, and they're clean, that's all that matters. Even if you have shoes to wear, you have shoes on your feet, decent shoes to wear, that's a blessing right there. You notice this lady here is on a cardboard box. This looks like New York City. She's on a cardboard box. She probably slept on that. So I just, when you see a homeless person, you know, try to look at them in an aspect of that person has a story. Since it's easy for people to judge, it's easy for people to pass judgment and say, "Oh, well, they're lazy or whatever," because I go to work every day and all this kind of stuff. But you don't know their stories. Some people, a lot of these people that he interviews have fallen on hard times. Housing costs in America, all across America, is skyrocket. The problem is, and I've stated this in other videos and many other videos, the wages are not matching. The cost of living is sky high. The problem is the wages are not matching. Your housing cost is going up sky high, and the wages are not matching. You're not People are not making a livable wage. They're not making, when you go to work and you work a full-time job, you should be able to afford to pay for your house or apartment. You should be able to afford the basics. So I'm not talking about buying Gucci and designer labels and things like that. I'm not talking or driving the best car off the lot. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your basics. You should be able to afford your basics. You should be able to afford your shelter costs. You should be able to afford food. You should be able to afford, your clothes. I'm not talking about fancy clothes or whatever like that, up and beyond extra stuff. I'm talking about your basics. If you go to work and you work a 40-hour work week and you can't even afford your basics, that's a problem. That's a problem. You are not making enough money. You're not making a livable wage. If you are not making a livable wage, if you have a hard time, you work a 40-hour work week and you cannot hardly afford to pay your rent, or you can't hardly afford to buy your food, or you can hardly afford your utilities. You can't hardly afford to buy your basic necessities. Just I'm talking about basics here, and I ain't talking about nothing extra. You can't you have a hard time affording transportation costs. Transportation costs is important because you got to be able to get back and forth to work. Now, mind you, my job is just around the corner. It's like literally less than 5 minutes away, but I'm still late. Go figure. Um, I don't time myself right sometimes, but I went without a car. Different times at different times, and there was times where I had to walk to work, and I appreciated the fact that just having a car, just being able to get in the car and start it up and get to work, that's that's a blessing right there. So, but when you have a car, you have to pay car insurance, you got to pay gas, the maintenance, the upkeep on the car. If you don't have a car, you have to pay for your bus. If you got to take the bus or your cab fare. Some nights I'd ride the cab to work. Well, we no longer have a cab service here anymore, but Lord have mercy. But some nights I would ride the cab to work, and it cost me literally $5 to get from my house to my job, and so um, if you don't have a car, then you have to pay for a bus or whatever, cab or whatever, Uber or whatever it is that you do, like that. So to get back and forth to work. So transportation cost is important. Or you need to go to the store and do your grocery shopping. Well, you got to be able to get there. I know there were times I rode a cab from the store to home. When I didn't have a card, I had to do my little grocery shopping. I had to, you know, call a cab to get me so I can get my groceries home. So transportation cost is very, very important. Very important. So if you're working a full time job and you cannot afford the basics, your basic necessities, housing, your shelter, food, necessities for the house, food, your basic clothes, and all that kind of stuff, that's a problem. That's a problem. And that is a problem for a lot of people particularly in your larger cities. Housing costs, New York and Los Angeles, and some of your other cities, the housing costs are very, very high, and the wages don't match. Even though I think the minimum wage is going up to like $15 in LA. But I was talking to my friend the other day, slash brother. He's like a brother to me. Down in LA. I was talking to him the other day because I was telling him about my son thinking about moving down there. And he was like, he got to realize, LA is not Michigan. And it's expensive. Housing costs and everything is expensive. Now we talked about that. That they're actually going to raise the minimum wage to $15. He said, yeah, but then they raised the cost of living. They raised the minimum wage, but then they raised the cost of living. And mainly in LA, I've been to LA 3 times, and to me, in my opinion, I think the food is cheaper down there. Not probably some of your high end grocery stores is probably more expensive. But I'm talking about food for less. They got food for less down there in LA. To me, I thought it was cheaper. The prices were cheaper than up here in Michigan. Um, the clothing, I thought the clothing. Now I'm not talking about the high end stores down there. I'm talking about the, your lower end clothing stores like Ross. I thought was cheaper than up here in Michigan as well. So, um, depending on where you shop, as far as that. But your housing costs in LA is what's gonna get you. It's your housing costs because you can buy for cheap down there. They got 99-cent stores. You can buy clothing for cheap down there, and other stuff like that. And they got the dollar stores and stuff like that, like they do up here and everywhere else. So that's not the problem. The problem is the housing costs down there, and the transportation costs. They got what they call these tap cards. I got a kick out of that. You put like maybe $10, $15 on it, and you can bus and train all over the city. I enjoyed that, and so I thought that was cheaper than up here. Uh, but um, but it's the housing costs that's gonna get you in L.A., New York, Chicago, Atlanta, some of your larger cities. A lot of your larger cities. That's what's gonna kill you is your housing costs. Right now he's paying like $1,400. He's on Section 8, mind you, but he's paying like $1,400 right now a month for a one-bedroom apartment. You know, so yeah, that's a one-bedroom apartment. So and what gets me is that the housing costs, they got the nerve to jack up the housing costs here in Michigan. In the city that I'm living in, uh, used to be able to rent a three-bedroom house for $600 a month. Now they want anywhere from upwards 800 to over $1,000 a month to rent a house. And depending on the area, because they got some, just like any other city, they got upper class areas. You go live in the upper class area. If you want to rent a house in that area, well, you're gonna be dropping down over $1,000 a month. And they just recently restored an older building here downtown. They restored it, and they decided to put high-end apartments in there, and they want over $1,000 a month for them. And I'm like, okay, well, the people that's making really good money here is only going to be the only people that's going to be able to afford to live there. I can't afford it on my salary. You know, it's cheaper for me to live in my house. I can't afford it on my salary. So, and the problem with Michigan is huge problem here in Michigan. Got a lot of low paying jobs here. I'm just gonna keep it 100. There's a lot of low paying jobs here in Michigan. Here in my city, we have what they call an industrial park, and it's an area where there's a lot of factories. We all know Michigan is an automotive state. So in this industrial park, they have tons of factories and make different various parts of the cars and stuff like that. I worked in one years ago and for about 3 months, and we were hooking up, I think, car stereos. I was in the department where we were hooking up car stereos. And unless you have a really good education and really can land a really really good paying job, uh, that's probably good where you're going to be working if you really want to make any money in this town. Is out to the factory. You know. Other than that, there's tons and tons of low paying jobs. I've had a lot of them. And so the problem with here is that the rents are increasing, but the wages aren't increasing. You know, you got to work. You got to work a couple jobs in order to be able to make your rent. I mean, well, here in Michigan, it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent. And here in Michigan, because it's cheaper, it would be cheaper to buy a house here than say Los Angeles or New York, or some of your other cities. The housing market here. I have to say it's pretty good. The housing market here, for about $50,000, you can get a fairly nice house up here in Michigan for 50 grand, believe it or not. Now, if you're looking at, I know I love real estate, so I'm always on Zillow looking at what's on the market. And we actually have $1 million property here, and um, for that property that's $1 million up here. If you put that same property in LA, you're probably going to be dropping down about 10 million for it, you know. So you could get a really really nice house here for 100 grand. I mean, 100 grand. Now if you go up any further than that, well, you looking at some mansions, up here in Michigan. So the housing market, I will say, the housing market up here is pretty good, and ultimately it is cheaper to buy than it is to rent, because if you buy in your house, you probably 9 times out of 10 your mortgage is going to be cheaper than what you would be paying if you're renting a house. So that's up here in Michigan. But the rent it to cost to rent an apartment and to rent a house up here is going up, but the wages aren't going up. Go figure. And the utility bills are high up here, particularly in the wintertime. I was just on the phone with the electric company the other day arguing. I wasn't arguing with them like that, but I was fussing at them a little bit. They got my bill. They had my bill a little twisted, so I had to straighten them out. So I always have to negotiate with the utility companies. Um, that's what I do. I have to call and negotiate with them. Oh shoot! I gotta get my cord here. Plug in my computer. Excuse me. But anyway, yeah. Um, as I was saying, um, everybody has a story. You know, not everybody that's homeless is on drugs or lazy. A lot of homeless people are out there because they got a story, and they fell upon hard times. Some of them have, they was living in a house, and they were renting a house, and the landlord decided to sell the property, and they had to vacate, and they winded up homeless that way. A lot of the stories were like that. Some of them are out there due to medical issues. They got sick and they couldn't work anymore, and then their disability didn't kick in. And believe it or not, there's a lot of homeless people that work. There's a lot of homeless people that have jobs. Yes. He's interviewed homeless people that have jobs. They have jobs and they are working. Some of them are working full time jobs. And you'd be like, well, how the heck does somebody work a full time job and still wind up on the street? Well, it's just what I stated earlier, the housing costs. The housing costs. San Francisco uh, uh, is a much smaller city than LA, but the housing folks, a lot of people are leaving San Francisco, because I was actually going to do a whole another video. I was going to do a whole separate video talking about San Francisco a couple months back, because I had seen an article on it. But I decided to go ahead and talk about it when I did this video. But San Francisco, their homeless rates is out the roof, because their housing cost is, a lot of people are leaving San Francisco because they can't afford to live there. Even people that are making good money over there cannot afford to live there, because the housing cost is just crazy. So and you got a lot of people that are living out of their vehicles, they're living out of their cars, they're living out of their vans, they're living out of RVs. It's not uncommon to go to San Francisco and see some RVs or vans and stuff parked on the street, because 9 times out of 10 people are living out of them, because they can't afford an apartment. And that's a new trend now, that I like to watch those channels where I've been really really intrigued by them channels, those tiny home channels where people are getting tiny homes, and some people are taking like vans and RVs and they're converting them into a home. And they interviewed this one lady, I forget what her channel was. She has a YouTube channel, this black lady, and she said that She said, I'm not homeless. She said, this is, she choose to live. She said, that's where I choose to live. She's living out of her van, and she was able to convert her van into a home. And it's really, really interesting how they take a van or RV and they really convert it into their home. But a lot of people, this is a going trend. A lot of people are doing that. They're doing this now because they cannot afford an apartment. And they got full-time jobs. A lot of homeless people have working full-time, but they cannot. That's what I'm saying. That you're not making a livable wage if you can't afford to even keep your roof over your head. And so that's a problem. It's a problem all across America. People cannot afford shelter. If you have shelter, you're blessed. You have a roof over your head, you are blessed. Because there's lots of people that do not have it. They don't have it. And even I've seen people here. I had a client that she lived in a uh, this hotel. They have hotels here that are homeless hotels. And when I went to this client, it was really sad. She was an older lady, and when I was doing home care. And when I went to this hotel, it was like I felt like I was going into another world. I didn't know that that part of the city even existed. I mean, I knew that hotel was there, but I didn't know that homeless people lived there until I had this client, and I was like, realized that it was full of homeless people. And of course, the owners, they was kind of getting over on the people that lived there because she was saying she was paying $500 a month, and this hotel was not 4 stars. I would say 2 stars at best, if that. Very low end and kind of seedy, and then wasn't keeping the place up like they should have. And she was dropping them $500 a month out of her little Social Security check. I really felt bad for the lady. I mean, she wound up dropping me because I don't know. She told the agency that uh, I don't know. She was nasty. I will say that. Uh, but I realized that even nasty people have standards. So she said, I didn't clean something, you know, whatever. But even nasty people have standards. So she wound up dropping me, which is fine. But I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it that I didn't even know that part of the city existed. And it was like when I would go over there, it was like I felt like I wasn't even. I'm like I couldn't believe it. I was like I didn't even believe. Even I was shocked. I didn't know that. I knew there was another hotel here, but it caught on fire. They closed it down. That homeless people were living. I knew homeless people were living there because they would stand outside the hotel and have their signs up and stuff. So I knew people were living there. But this other hotel that I had this client at, I didn't know homeless people were living there. And so, um, and that's in my city. And so, it's becoming an epidemic. In the next city that's next to mine, people sleep in the park. And over the summer, the city was trying to kick them out. And I was upset because I'm like, where are they going to go? I said, you guys need to help them. You need to help them find housing instead of just kicking them out. And so I was kind of concerned about what they were going to do because Michigan is not a good place to be homeless. Mm-mm. Any cold city where it's wintertime, we have some harsh winters up here, and it is not a good place to be homeless, without a warm place to sleep. Um, Man, it gets rough up here. I mean, this year we've had a relatively mild winter, but yeah, it's rough. She looks like she's in New York, and here she's sleeping on a cardboard box. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine sleeping on a cold concrete with on a cardboard box? Could you imagine that? I can't. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot even begin to imagine. It just goes beyond my imagination. And so, and then not everybody is homeless is on drugs. And that's another thing have people have a tendency to think, Well, they must be on drugs. Yes, some of them are, but don't judge them. He interviewed this one homeless person, and she said that, well, I started, I was using drugs, because they get depressed about their situation. Just imagine if you don't have a place to live and you're on the street. Just imagine the despair you would be in. And some of these people really, really get into despair. They go into deep depression, and I'm not making excuses for them. And some of them turn to drugs as a coping mechanism, you know, where they wasn't really on them before. They turned to drugs as a coping mechanism. But that is not everything. It's not representative of everyone that is homeless, mind you. But some of them, I'm giving you the reasons why some of them may be on drugs, because it's like a coping mechanism, to cope with to deal with their situation. They out here trying to deal with their situation the best they can. And what hurts me more than anything is to see children and elderly people out there. I mean, it hurts me to see anybody out there, but when you see elderly, he interviews some elderly people, and they, a lot of them have health problems, and it's just really sad. It just it brings tears to your eyes. I mean, that's if you have a heart. Some people don't have a heart, they don't care, but um it just tears me up sometimes, because when I see him interview the elderly people, and some of these elderly people are sickly, and then some people I know. I went we went on a when I worked at the daycare, we went on a staff trip to Chicago, and we were downtown, and a lot of the time you're in a big city, and you're in a populated area, you gotta everybody know you gotta keep it moving. And we passed by this lady that she had her baby. She had her baby with her, and she had a sign. I'm like, oh my God. And it was around September. It was still relatively warm outside. It was around September. But I'm like, what is she going to do when it starts getting cold? I'm like, oh my God. And I just prayed for that lady. She had her baby with her. She had her baby. I mean, it just makes your heart sick. It just makes your heart sick. And sometimes the only best thing you can do for them is pray. The best thing you can do for anybody is pray for them. A lot of times you're not able to actually help them. But I just wanted to dispel some of the myths. I just really thought I just want to spread awareness, and I want to dispel some myths about homelessness. It's not what you're thinking. Everybody out there is not lazy. There's a lot of homeless people that work. Some of them are living in hotels. Um, and I found out in my city, um, it's you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised if you watch this channel. You will really you'll really get an education about everybody has a story. And like I said, I made that point many times in other videos. Everybody has a story. Don't be so quick to judge. And like I said, when I get my new phone and I get my or a blogging camera, whichever comes first, I'm going to interview a couple of homeless people in my city. I'm gonna give them a few bucks to give them a little incentive, and I'm gonna interview them, and I'm gonna find out what their story is, because they all have a story. Every last one of them have a story, and there's people from all walks of life out there. Is this lady? This is a Caucasian lady. We have white people that's out there, black folks. 'Cause white folks struggling too. It ain't just black folks. See, this America is not just racist; it's classist. Just in case some of you didn't realize, United States is classist, not just racist. It's class and sexist. It's also classist. So if you're a Caucasian person and you happen to be poor, well, you're gonna be looked down upon. So it's a lot of it's people from all races that's out there. You got black people out there. You got white people out there. It's all different nationalities that's homeless, all different ages. You got some young people that was in the foster care system. And everybody knows that if a child is in the foster care system, by the time that they age out of the foster care system, they turn 18, they are pretty much a lot of young people are homeless because of that. Because of that situation, they were in foster care, but when they get 18, they obviously can't be in foster care no more. If they didn't find an adoptive family, they wind up on the street. See? And so there's a lot of young people that's around my son's age. My son is 19. It's a lot of young people around my son's age. They are out on the streets because they aged out of the foster care system. Yes. There's a lot, as I read there's a lot of children out there that's homeless with their parents. But they try to stay on the down low because they don't want their babies to get taken away. Okay? So so that's why it hurts me when they be talking about cutting these programs and stuff, when they be talking about cutting food stamps and all that. That's why I talk about this stuff. These programs are needed. Section 8 and food stamps. All those, and I'm not talking about it because I'm on it. I'm not currently on those things. But it's a lot of people that need those programs. Thank God I'm able to manage without it, by the grace of God. But it's a lot of people that need that. They need the Section 8. They need them food stamps. And the last thing that people that they want is judgment. I know when I was getting food stamps and I was on Section 8, I was working. I was working. I was still working. But I wasn't making a livable wage. I wasn't making enough money I needed help. By the grace of God, I was able to get off of Section 8. But not everybody is that fortunate. And they say, well, why do people stay on that stuff for? Well, it's because housing costs are skyrocketed and the wages are low. That's why people are on these programs and they stay on them for years and years and years. They cannot afford to get off of them. That's why. I just wish people would get off their high horse and stop being so judgmental. And the point that I'm always making, and I've constantly made in other videos, you don't never know what situation you're going to be in. Be careful about your judgment. Watch your judgment because you don't know what situation you're going to wind up in. Anything can happen. Life happens. Anything can happen. Most people are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless. Yes, most people. They're 1 or 2 paychecks away from being on the streets. It could be a job loss. A lot of jobs are being outsourced. Uh, you can lose your job for various different reasons. And what if you can't jump up and find another one right away? Okay, so be just I petition everybody out there to just watch your judgment. Just watch your judgment. Be careful because you don't know what situation you're gonna be in. It could be a job loss. It could be a health crisis. I When I was at the daycare, I had a heck of a health scare when I left, physically, I was gaining a little bit too much weight and I was pre-diabetic and then I was having a lot of problems with walking and my back. I was scared. I was terrified. I'm like, I gotta work. I was like, Jehovah God, I gotta work. How am I gonna work if I can't even walk? you know? So it's scary. It's scary. It could be a health crisis. People been diagnosed with cancer. And if you die, I had a cousin that had cancer, and once he was at stage 4. Once he got to stage 3 and 4, he couldn't work anymore. He wasn't able to work anymore. Because he was always in and out of the hospital doing his chemo treatments and stuff like that. He wasn't able to work, and by the grace of God, he was able to get his Social Security. Okay, so we don't know. It could be cancer, a major health crisis, or a job loss. We don't know what situation we're gonna be in. That we wind up being just like some of these people out here. So we gotta be careful about looking down on people and judging people. Everybody has a story. If a person is living in poverty or they're homeless, it's a reason why they're out there. It is a reason why they're out there. And we are not going to be so quick to judge. We shouldn't be so quick to judge. So, people that made it to the end of this video, I'm going to be doing more videos. So, stay tuned on homelessness. I want to spread awareness. I recommend that you go to this man's channel, Invisible People. Highly recommend that you go there. It is a real eye opener. Uh, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. But I thought it was very, very important. The video is long, but I thought it was very important that I really, really want to spread awareness and dispel some of the myths about homelessness, because there's a lot out there, you know. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you visited that channel and you seen it, hit me. Come back over here, hit me up. Let me know what you thought about it, what your views are. I don't want any harsh comments about homeless people on here because I might wind up blocking you if y'all see any harsh comments down there. Um, just hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Um, Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. Really need to get up to that 1,000 subscribe mark. uh, Once I'm able to monetize, it will make a huge difference in my life. I will be able to get out of debt. Right now, I'm currently in some serious debt. Once I am able to monetize again, I will be able to get myself out of debt and be able to take care of a lot of things that I need to take financial issues that I need to take care of in my life. So it's very important for me to get up to that 1,000 subscribe mark so I can monetize. It's taking me forever. I like to do YouTube anyway. So please hit that subscribe button. It's very important to me. Share my video and hit that like button. Once you hit that like button, need you to hit that like button because that's going to get it out there. That's going to kick it out there more. And new subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much. Current subscribers, thank you so much. Stay subscribed to my channel. Don't unsubscribe. I know people be doing that too. My numbers kind of teeter back and forth. Hang in there with me. I got some good things coming up. You know, just hang in there with me. I'm going to be getting my video editing software. I'm hoping that's goals I got for my channel this year. Sister struggling out here. So hopefully this year I'll be able to get my video editing software. I did have a demo, but I didn't know how to use it. So I not only have to get it, I have to learn how to use it. And I'm going to be getting a blocking camera, and I'm going to get me a new phone. And once I do that, I'm going to be doing some shot with me videos and stuff like that. So I'm going to be making some improvement to my channel. I got a cool idea for an intro. So I got some good things coming up for my channel. So I just need you guys to just hang in there with me. I'm growing at micro speed, but I'm growing. Okay, stay tuned. I'll be having some more interesting video topics coming up. Peace and love. This is Sweet June.